Okay, I need to go into town, but I also need to edit this a little bit and get the voice. So let's do that. Let's find the voice. Let's find the voice. I don't think that was the voice I'm looking for. Oh God, I wish I could breathe today. That'd be awesome. Greywater Tales. Ben, the Song of Miss Luna, and Vern the Gargoyle. Ben was afraid to find a room and call it his own. Miss Luna had said whatever room he could imagine would be there for him. Any room at all, Ben, she had told him as she brushed his now long hair out of his eyes. All you have to do is open your mind and let it happen. Hiccups. But he just couldn't bring himself to do it. All his life, whenever he felt like he had a home, a place he could stay, a place that he would get comfortable with, he would have to leave it. Ben leaving, Ben going, Ben gone. Every time that happened, it hurt even more than the time before. He didn't want that to happen at Greywater. He was beginning to love the place. That love was stirring that fear in him that he wasn't going to be allowed to stay. He was sure the pain of leaving this place would hurt so much that it would kill him. He convinced himself that if he actually didn't have a room, no place he called his own, then maybe he could hold off the move. So he would just sleep whenever and wherever he got sleepy. There always seemed to be a comfortable couch, a hammock, a big poofy something that would call to him. Every morning he would wake with a comfortable fluffy pillow under his head and an incredibly comfortable blanket covering him. He never knew who did that. I'll take that out. These were the best sleeps he ever had in his life. His dreams were so vivid that when he woke he couldn't wait to write them down in his journal, to sketch them out. He actually wanted to tell the stories that were building inside of him. Ben was afraid to call a room his own, but here lately he was sleeping more and more in the room with the library door in it. The library would call to him and he would go up, find the books with the loudest voice, then return to the room, flop on a couch or chair, and read until he fell asleep. He liked the room. The room wasn't his, and therefore he didn't have a room, and therefore he wouldn't have to move. Ben also loved the night. He'd always felt comfortable and safe when the sun set and the day went to sleep. No one was around to bully him, yell at him, or make fun of him. It was like the world was his and his alone. There was a music Ben could hear at night. He wasn't sure exactly what it was, but to Ben, it was the music of people sleeping. He imagined the music was people's dreams, and it helped him with his stories and his drawings. At least that was how he felt. The room to the library was the perfect place to do this, to find the dreams. He could stay in the room and create, or go out on the balcony and look at the sky, the lake, the calmness of the night, and listen to the strange, wonderful, ever-changing music of Greywater. Ben liked to act out the stories that came to him. He liked it because he felt like he was on a stage and the night was an audience. And the night was an audience, and his music as well. Ben would do all the different voices, all the sound effects, everything needed to write the story down, or get the images on paper. He wasn't sure when he started doing it, but he called the room before the library the Dream Room. Ben and Ree had returned from the library one time. One time, Ben and Ree had returned from the library, each one with a stack of books in their hands and big smiles on their faces. They each found a couch, and they both had fallen asleep that night. The Dream Room. Ree had nodded in approval the next morning when Ben told her, not hello, put an R right there. Told her what. Ree had nodded in approval the next morning when Ben told her what he wanted to call it. It just seems right. He He liked it when he could impress Ree, because that was very hard to do. He was starting to understand her a little bit. Just a little. He was starting to understand the house and some of the things in it as well. It started with the old radio in the corner of the dream room. He had seen one like it before in one of the places he had stayed. There was an older couple, and their favorite thing to do was sit by the radio, rock back and forth in their rocking chairs, and listen to music. Ben would sit on the floor and write in his journals. One of the better memories Ben had. He wasn't sure if it had always been there or just appeared that day, but when he saw it in the dream room, hello, that's a very choppy sentence. He wasn't sure if he'd always been there or just appeared that day. He wasn't sure if the radio had always been in the dream room. He wasn't sure if the radio had always been in the dream room. I wish I could breathe. Or if it had just appeared that day. But when he saw it in the dream room, he was sure it was the same radio. Or was it a stereo? Ben thought about it, and he was certain the couple called it a stereo. The stereo looked like a long dresser until you lifted the lid. Inside was a record player, something called an 8-track, and a cassette player. There was also a radio. Ben could never get anything to work and just figured it was broke. It was the first night that Ben was stuck with a story he was working on and couldn't sleep that the stereo lit up and started playing a song. Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. I'm not sleepy and there is no place I'm going to. Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. In the jingle jangle morning I'll come following you. After the song was over, the stereo went dark again. Ben tried and tried to get it to play again, but the radio refused. I don't like again and again together. After the song was over, the stereo went dark. Ben tried and tried to get it to play again, but the radio refused. Stereo. The stereo refused. That night, Ben drifted to sleep with the song in his head. The next morning he woke and knew what he wanted to write. And it seemed so obvious. He immediately grabbed his journal and started writing, humming the song from the night before as he did. It was like the stereo knew he needed it. Ben started to notice whenever he was having heavy thoughts, trouble creating, or sometimes just needed some guidance of where to go or what to do, the stereo would play a song it seemed he needed. But, as always, if Ben tried to hear a song and get the stereo to work, nothing would happen. Guess I'll call you Mr. Moody, Ben said after another failed attempt. The stereo lit up and the sound of applause and trumpets blared from the speakers, then went dark again. Ben nodded as he laughed. Mr. Moody it is, then. Right, I'm going to pause right there. That's a fairly decent rhythm, and I'll go with it. Once I get back from town, I'll work on the second half of it. Woohoo!